Hello and welcome back to Warren's Room. This short video tutorial will show you how to get started with Rondo alla Turca by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Mozart was a fantastic pianist, violinist, and could play a plethora of musical instruments. Because he was a virtuoso, some of what he accomplishes on the piano is technically difficult, but not impossible to achieve. I'm going to show you ways to simplify the music to help you get there faster and to give you a little bit of instant gratification. Before we begin, let's have a short excerpt from Rondo alla Turca. We'll begin with that first section. Let's focus on the right hand in this video. Now, the first thing we're going to do is learn a series of motifs called a sequence that kind of like ascend a scale. There's a special finger pattern that you'll need to know to be able to do this. Just so you know, a motif is a musical idea or phrase, usually something really small, like a little bite-sized sentence or something. That's our motif. We'll move it from based on A to C. It kind of sounds the same, just a little higher. And then we'll do one based on E. Since they're kind of the same thing in a row, but going like up in order, we'll call it a sequence. Now, there's a special finger pattern that you need to know to do this. Place your middle finger on A. We'll actually begin our little turnaround sound with your ring finger. That's basically what it is. But in order to go higher, we really need to put our thumb under onto the A. So 4, 3, 2, 1, which allows you to put your middle finger onto C. And that was our next position, if you remember. From there, 4, 3, 2, 1 under to the C, middle finger ends on E. And that's our next position. Thumb under again, but this time we're going to go all the way to A, so just a little bit farther. All you have to really do is open your hand. Just kind of slide your fingers one step apart from your thumb. Let's see all that in order. All right. The next section is going to go, it's based on A again, but just like the beginning, it starts with your ring finger on a B. This time we don't need to put our thumb under because there's no need to go any higher than we've already gone. So we'll do that little turn twice. And then use your pinky to hit the high C. Turn under, turn under, turn under. 4, 3, 2, 1, 3. 4, 3, 2, 1, 3. 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 5. It's kind of like ballet for your fingers or something. You really kind of have to twist a little bit. When you put your thumb under, sort of let your hand pivot just a little bit to the right. If you can do this like with a beautiful motion in slow motion first, you can gradually speed it up. Don't try this fast from the get-go. Take it slow, make sure you have the technique, finger patterns, and the motion right. And then you'll discover you can go fast pretty easily. Once we're here, the second half of this little section, we'll move your hand from this position that we ended in back to here. Oops, excuse me. First we'll do AC again, and then move back to there. So, now this is like a grace note. It's kind of hard to do. You need to play with very, very light fingers. If you keep your fingers really curved, it helps. The flatter your fingers are, the harder this is to do. That's something that you can practice and drill, just that little bit. A good rule of thumb is to try to do something 5 times in a row without making a mistake. If you can, no matter how fast or slow you're playing, then you know you're kind of getting it and your fingers are really getting used to it. All right, you can simplify that, however, and just go and leave out those little extra notes. I would actually recommend that when you're trying to play the whole song and then work in those little grace notes later. We'll see that put to use in just a second. So let's move on from there anyway. From here, the next section of the music is going to use 2 and 4 on F sharp and A. Let's call this double stops. That's really like a term that's kind of used more in reference to organ than piano, but kind of makes sense. Double stops, 2 things at once. It's like imagine 2 instruments playing at once, basically. And from there, 1 and 3 on E and G, then back, and then we'll do the whole pattern again. So, but the last time we won't go back, we'll actually kind of cross 2 and 4 over to these 2 black notes, D sharp, F sharp, and then end on an E. Let's see all that together. Next part. Next part. Practice that in slow motion and try to learn to do the whole thing without stopping. Now, because that requires quite a bit of finger dexterity, you might want to simplify that section. With a lot of music, what you can do is just play the highest note whenever you have like double stops. And that'll give you the melody. It doesn't give you all the harmonies, but it's enough to sound like the piece. Let's try that. Sounds just as good. Well, almost just as good. Notice that even though I could have played it like this, I still moved my 4th finger to here at the very end. That way later on when I add those other notes back in, I'll be used to moving to that new position. Now, you can also leave out the grace notes. You can even do the double stops without the grace notes. Let's see that again in slow motion. In fact, I'd recommend doing that first. I wanted to show you the full-on method, but if you'll begin your practice this way, you'll be able to get to the harder version first. It's always easiest to start with something simple and then build upon it. Let's try it with the double stops. Okay, let's try it with no double stops, but use the grace notes. Oops, I messed up at the end there, but I kept going. If you mess up the fingering, just try to finish it out. It's always best to keep your fingering consistent, excuse me. But you really want to finish it no matter what. Getting into the habit of stopping mid-pattern is actually probably the worst thing that you can do. So keep that in mind. All right, so the grace notes have to be really, 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 really light. You almost have to play them with a feather touch. Da-da-da. They'll be very difficult to do. So sometimes it's okay to try them, but keep them very slow. I know that messed up the rhythm a little bit, but at least I tried and I could work on keeping my fingers very light. If you press heavily on any of these 3 fingers, it'll totally mess you up. If you can't get that part, that's the one thing I would definitely leave out. Because it still sounds really cool with All right. I will bring along a second video to cover what the left hand's doing. You should practice the right hand first. Oh, if you want to hear some left hand with it though, you can simply use what you know about basic chord theory to hold like an A or even a full A minor chord during most of the music. And when the sound kind of changes to the other sound, use a B and an E. It'll sound like this.